Good morning, everyone. It is 10 o'clock. Let's begin with the pledge, please. Mr. Guinness, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Mr. Rubin, would you go ahead and lead us in our invocation, sir?
Sure. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for bringing us here safely. Thank you for the fact that you are in control of all things, including the weather. And we do pray that you would send warmer weather, that we would be able to plant our gardens, work in our fields. Pray that you would give us wisdom in this day. Be with Mr. Hankins. Give him wisdom as he leads this meeting. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. We welcome you here. We hope you enjoyed summer 2 weeks ago. And we will move on. Melanie, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Mason.
Here.
Commissioner Turnbull,
Good morning, here.
Commissioner Hankins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chamberlain,
Here.
Commissioner Mapes,
Here.
Commissioner Ginnop,
Here.
Commissioner Levanway. Here. Commissioner Rubing.
Present.
Thank you. Review and approval of the meeting minutes from April 4th, 2023. Entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I will make a motion.
Moved by Commissioner Levanway, seconded by Mr. Ginnop. Any further discussion? Any changes that you would like to make to the minutes? Hearing nothing, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Hankins,
Yes.
Commissioner Mapes,
Yes.
Commissioner Ginnop,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubing,
Yes.
Commissioner Chamberlain,
Yes.
Commissioner Levanway. Yes. Commissioner Mason,
Yes.
Commissioner Turnbull.
Yes.
Review and approval of the agenda. We take a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
I believe that there is one thing on this agenda which should not be on this agenda, and that is under committee. Number 2, recommendation of the Program and Evaluation Committee to not apply for the Michigan Health Endowment Fund. So I would like to make a motion to strike number 2 from the agenda.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Why? Why do you want to strike it?
All of us commissioners are on various committees, and the committee already made a recommendation. We already discussed this in depth. And if we're not going to follow the recommendation of the committee, then why do we have the committee?
Can I respond?
Please.
I think at the very first meeting, I'm new on this, Cheers, but at the very first meeting, it was discussed in which committees don't have authority to make that decision. We did not give the committee the authority to make the decision for the whole board. And you had a meeting, a committee meeting in which, I don't know, because I was not there. I don't know if Dan wants to speak on this, but we as a board did not give approval to have that committee make that decision. That is not the way Robert's Rule of Orders works.
Robert's basic parliamentary procedure says that if a committee approves it, then it goes to the full board for consideration. If the committee does not approve it, then it does not pass through the committee and it does not go to the full board. And the motion that was made was to approve it and to send it to the full board. And that motion failed. So right in the motion, everyone at the committee understood that if it passes, it goes to the full board. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
You didn't hear what I said. The committee doesn't have the authority to make the decision. We did not give you authority to make the decision whether board grants approve or not approve. It's supposed to be a recommendation to the board. So now you want to pull the recommendation from the board.
The committee made a recommendation.
And you're trying to pull it. Didn't you just try to pull that off?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? You don't have the authority to do that.
Well, does your committee have the authority to pay the bills? Or not pay the bills? If
We're
you thought-
bringing them to the board every month.
Yeah, because it passed committee.
No, I don't
If
think
there's
so.
bills that aren't approved, they never come to the board because they weren't approved.
No, I don't think so. I think you're misinformed.
Chairman,
Mr. Mason,
I agree with Jairus. There's no reason for a committee to exist. If you made a verbal presumption that that board should not have the authority to deny bringing it to the full board, Robert's rules clearly says that a denial removes it from the full board's jurisdiction.
We did not give the committee the authority to make that decision. They don't have the authority, do they, Dan?
As far as so when this came up in the committee, after we went through the meeting and everything, I was not certain at that time, but I did reach out to our attorney, did quite a bit of research ahead of time, discussed it thoroughly with them. I've been in contact, talking this over with the board chair. I believe, and the attorney confirmed this, that the bylaws basically give the authority to the committees, and the bylaws do not give the committee the authority to make a final decision. They would make a recommendation, which is brought back to the full board, which makes sense to me. And then you follow Robert's Rules of Order, which, I looked in there, and there is, some language about bringing that recommendation forward, making a motion, all of those things. And that's why that was put into the agenda like it was. The other factor here is that the Open Meetings Act has to be, if the Board of Health through the bylaws gave authority to the committee to make the decision, you have to follow the Open Meetings Act. It's in the handbook. There is case law that talks about that. That, whether it's a recommendation to accept or reject something, it would have to basically follow every aspect of the Open Meetings Act, including, making it a public meeting and all of that. So we had agreed that this committee meeting, like the Personnel and Finance Committee meeting, we had gone both ways with having them be public meetings, and Mr. Rubin and I agreed on that for that particular meeting, that we said, well, it's a committee meeting. Let's do it like the Personnel and Finance. We don't need to do a public meeting. So even if it was that authority was given, you would have to follow the OMA and make sure it's posted and, followed correctly. And that case law is cited. I shared it with Mr. Hankins, and I believe that's where we're at. But I think in this case, because the committees don't have full authority to make decisions, it has to go to the full board.
The other thing that I would like to bring up too, Jairus, is that if your committee made a final decision, it should have been an Open Meetings Act, which the public should have been notified, and it should have been videotaped. I have no idea what happened in your committee meeting. So how is that fair to anybody that's not on your committee, which is half of this board?
Yeah, like,
So you're wrong. I'm sorry.
like Dan said, he called me and asked if we needed to post it. And I said, well, it's a committee meeting. I don't see that we have to, but I don't care either way. So he just said not to. I mean, I agree with what he said, but any action that the committee takes to approve something has to be approved by the full board. We didn't approve anything. We didn't do anything. So there's no just like what Dan just said, there's no reason to bring it to the full board because we didn't do anything. Any committee that you're on, building and lands, budget and finance, if it doesn't pass committee, it doesn't go to the full board. This isn't rocket science.
I would like to defend the Finance Committee because I'm chair of it. We do have a meeting. We go through all the bills, and they're in the packet for the board approval today.
Is
But they
it
do come
posted and
to
is
the
it an
board.
open meeting?
No, it's not, but
Oh.
that's why the health department, I guess, has never done that before. And we're new and we're learning, and hopefully things will change. But I do not want to be here to sit and argue over every little detail that happens. We're trying to make changes and we're trying to make things better here. I have no problem leaving this agenda the way it is.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Turnbull.
I would like to just state that I mean, being new to this, I'm like a outsider looking in with all your guys' experience. But the way I saw it is we set up these committees to make these decisions, whether we need to go into our bylaws. Sounds like we need to go into the bylaws and change them to give to specifically state that. But I don't see if something is not good, I'll do air quotes, not good, then, I mean, I'm sure Mr. Dan, if Mr. Dan Rowe was like, this is bad, we don't want to do this, it would end there with Dan. Like, I don't see, jumping your chain of command, so to speak, and it's, sorry to use military terminology, but, like jumping your chain of command isn't good to be like, well, so to speak, like, daddy said no, so I'm going to go ask mommy, and just keep pushing it along. If somebody says no, they have reasons, or if it should stop with that. And that's my opinion. So I believe that Commissioner Rubin is in the right on this.
So does any other commissioner want to weigh in? Okay. So would it be the position then, Mr. Rubin, that a 2-2 vote, which is what the Program and Finance Committee or Program and Evaluation Committee had rather, would it be your position then that 2 commissioners out of the 8 should be able to make the entire decision?
Well, I guess I would just ask the commission, the question, do 2 commissioners out of the 8 get to make the decision on the bill? Absolutely,
No,
on the bills.
no.
If
No,
there's 2 of them that don't approve, they don't go to the full board.
Well, I think
Our committee
the
doesn't work
committees
that way.
make a recommendation to the board and the full board makes the
Fine.
determination.
Well, this didn't happen last month. This is the second grant we've looked at. So now we're going to pick and decide which ones pass committee and which ones don't. We had a marijuana lockbox grant. It didn't pass committee, so it didn't come to this board. When are we going to be consistent and follow basic parliamentary procedure? If this comes to the full board, then the last one needs to too. And if everyone comes to the full board, then I don't know why we have a committee. We might as well just abolish it.
Yes, good idea.
Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
Chairman Hankins,
Mr. Mason,
in committee in Otsego County, anywhere in the county, if it's been denied at the committee, it does not come to the board.
okay,
Can I say something?
Mr. Thorell.
The Jairus, with all due respect, the lockbox thing was not brought to the committee through this process. I think that was something that was already in the works well before we established that policy for bringing grants to the committee. I realized we talked about it in the committee, but it wasn't something that we brought to the committee to get approval, yes or no, to go forward with the grant. It was something that was already moving along.
Whether it was moving along or not moving along, there was a motion that was brought before the committee.
Which I believe failed.
And the motion last week failed.
Can I?
We either follow the basic rules or we don't. We don't get to pick and choose.
Jairus?
Did you see me making all kinds of waves to get the medical marijuana lock boxes onto the agenda? No, it failed in committee.
Jairus,
Life is life. You don't always win. You win some, you lose some, and then you move on.
Jairus, that was brought to our county board meeting and everybody voted for it, but you. And you came back to the committee that you chair and tried to stop it again, when a majority of our board passed it.
The motion that was passed at this board said that all non-statutory grants shall be brought before the Program and Evaluation Committee. The medical marijuana lockbox grant is a non-statutory grant. The thing that's interesting is the fact that we've only seen 2 grants come before this committee. And we know that there's approximately 2 pages worth of grants that are non-statutory. So the question is not how come we've only had 2, but how come we haven't had 20 by now?
Any further discussion? Mr.
Just
Thorell.
a response to that, just for clarity. So my understanding is that we're bringing all new grants, new program.
That's
grants.
not what the motion said that was passed.
I don't recall.
All new. The motion that was passed said that all non-statutory grants shall be brought before the Program and
say new in
Evaluation
there.
Committee.
It does say new.
It does say new.
That's
It's
not what the
new.
motion said. You can go back and listen to the meeting. I made the motion.
Okay, the motion that we are discussing right now, which has been moved and seconded, is to remove from our agenda under committee reports, item number 8, B2, which is the recommendation of the Program and Evaluation Committee to not apply for the Michigan Health Endowment Fund.
So I need to make sure I understand this. So you're saying you want to pull it off because it was a tie and it shouldn't be written? Is that what you're saying?
The recommendation,
No, what are you saying? Why are you trying to pull this off? We
Yeah.
just don't vote on it because the committee got to decide?
the committee already decided and it didn't pass. The committee made a recommendation and the recommendation failed. So it's already been decided.
I'd like to hear from the other committee people what you think.
We even discussed this in committee, building and grounds, budget and finance committees. If it doesn't pass committee, we discuss this after the vote. If it doesn't pass committee, it doesn't go to the full board. If it passes committee, it goes to the full board. It was in the motion that Mr. Chamberlain made.
Yeah, I did put that. And then afterwards, Dan explained it to us. Went over it and that's why we're here today.
Because it didn't pass the committee, so
Went
it goes to
2-2.
the full board to decide. And now you don't want the full board to decide. Is that what you're saying?
You have to pass committee in order for the full board to approve. If
But,
it fails committee, it doesn't go to the full board.
but he just said that's not the case for us. It's not a county
We are
here.
not different than counties. We are not some special, unique governmental body that doesn't have to follow basic parliamentary procedures. I was in Lansing last week and I talked to John Roth, and he's on the Transportation Committee. And they had a transportation bill that came before them. And there were a whole bunch of Republicans that didn't like it. And there were a handful of Democrats that didn't like it. So when it came up for a vote, it failed. And the speaker wanted to bring it to the full floor.
But
And-
Jairus, we don't have in our bylaws that say the board, the committee has authority to make the decision.
We do have in our
No,
bylaws.
it says they make a recommendation, not the final decision. There's a total difference.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call the question.
Okay, any further discussion?
Can I say just one thing? I mean,
After the question has been called.
Well, that doesn't stop all conversation, Jairus.
I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on this because we didn't, I mean, regardless, okay, if you,
Yeah.
whatever the outcome of this vote, if that was not a Open Meetings Act public meeting that we were in, so it would be an Open Meetings Act violation to make a decision in it when it wasn't a public meeting.
There was no decision made. The decision was the motion was to recommend to apply for it, and it failed. So there was no recommendation to move forward. So there was no recommendation made.
We did not give you the authority to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I asked to call the question.
Okay, let's have a roll call, please, Melanie. A yes vote would be to remove from our agenda under section 8B2, the recommendation of the Program and Evaluation Committee to not apply for the Michigan Health Endowment Fund grant. A yes vote is to remove that. A no vote is to leave it on our agenda. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Mapes,
No.
Commissioner Henkins,
No.
Commissioner Rubing,
Yes.
Commissioner Levanway,
No,
Commissioner Ginup,
Yes.
Commissioner Turnbull,
Yes.
Commissioner Chamberlain,
No.
Commissioner Mason,
Yes.
tied vote, failed.
So the motion to remove it failed, which means that it stays on our agenda. Moving on to public comments. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, we have a long day ahead. Please stop clapping. Let's keep the business of the day moving along. Public comment,
Mr. Chairman,
sir.
before we can do public comment, we need a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
Moved by Ms. Levanway,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Chamberlain. Is there any further discussion on our agenda?
I just say that I can't vote to approve this agenda because there's something on it that shouldn't be on it.
Then vote no.
Okay, if you'd like to abstain, you can, sir. We have a motion to approve the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda. We have a second. Is there any further discussion? Anything else you would like to discuss on the agenda? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Mason,
No.
Commissioner Chamberlain,
Yes.
Commissioner Turnbull,
No.
Commissioner Ginup,
No.
Commissioner Levanway,
Yes,
Commissioner Hankins,
Yes.
Commissioner Mapes.
Yes.
So it's motion passed.
Motion fails. 4-4.
I thought you removed yourself.
No, I didn't.
You just said you removed yourself
Yeah.
from voting.
yes.
I said I'm not going to vote in favor.
No.
I thought you said you-
removed
Okay.
yourself.
Call his name.
Rubing,
No.
Okay, so
motion
we
failed.
don't have an approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mason.
I'd like to say something. We as commissioners, it's tempting at times when things go our ways to be smiling with what may appear to be the winning side. It's not our place to be intimidating other commissioners with smirks from the board.
Okay,
I would
Miss-
like to make a comment.
Ms. Levanway.
We are here as a board to represent the people for this health department. When we can't even agree on an agenda for the betterment of the people, that's really sad. We do not have anything in our bylaws that say your committee was given authority to make that decision. You did not have an open meetings act that you followed, and you're wrong. And to push your little agenda is wrong. I mean, all these people can see this. They can't even approve of an agenda to help the betterment of the people in a 4-county region. Shame on you people.
I want to thank everybody for their attendance this morning. I'm going to take a 5-minute recess to confer with Mr. Thurell and perhaps call Mr. Cross and see. Folks, I'm not an expert in Robert's rules. Okay. And I'm not going to be hung up by somebody with a gotcha attitude. So I'm going to go call our attorney and see what we do. Okay, 5-minute recess. Dan, let's go out here. Okay.
Not wise.
Pardon me?
Okay, that was a long 5 minutes. We had a couple of phone calls, Mr. Thurell, myself, and our attorney, Mr. Cross, discussing the appropriate procedure here. And I'm not going to be a very popular guy, but is what it is. So without an approved agenda, on the advice of our attorney, we cannot conduct a meeting. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, I know that there are a number of you that want to address this board. I will ask one more time if we can come to an agreement on an agenda, or if anyone would like to make a motion to approve the agenda. And that's probably, I don't even think I can do that. I'm going to go with the advice of our attorney. We can't have a meeting. So, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. I'm sorry if we've wasted your time, but I'm not going to get sued down the road over a violation of Robert's rules. So this meeting is adjourned.